live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Tuesday already. Can you believe it? August 15th. We're going in depth tonight on the latest developments with former President Donald Trump. We're talking about what went down last night, how this impacts things going forward, and taking a look just in depth on what has happened to date. When we get there, we'll show it to you. Of course, we'll get to our headlines first, covering Washington County tonight, where a driver was killed, another was arrested after a head-on crash. St. George police say it happened this morning on Sunset Boulevard, just west of Valley View Drive. Also in our headlines tonight, now updating, I guess you can call it the death toll there in Maui. It's heartbreaking. 99 people confirmed dead from the fires in Hawaii. That total likely to increase. National Fire Protection Agency and Association says the wildfires are the deadliest in the United States in more than 100 years. Many active duty troops are involved in the response efforts there, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. An update on the Thompson Ridge fire burning in 3 central Utah counties. At last check, the fire has not spread since last night, still at nearly 7,300 acres. However, fire crews have increased containment to roughly 15%. Finally, the share of homes in the United States that are worth $1 million or more is nearing an all-time high. A housing analyst crunched some numbers for us in Utah, says roughly 1 in 5 homes for sale cost at least $1 million. My goodness. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us during the show. Use the hashtag 2NewsLive to join our conversation. Of course, you can always find us on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send a direct message to any of those platforms to weigh in. Told you we're going in depth on this. Former President Donald Trump says the Georgia district attorney who indicted him is corrupt. A new indictment names him and 18 allies in an alleged criminal conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election results in the state of Georgia. Trump himself is facing 13 felony counts, including violating Georgia's RICO Act, a racketeering law used to take down major crime organizations. Trump and the other defendants have 10 days to surrender to authorities. Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman joining us here on 2 News Live. Scott, both sides have kind of laid out their strategies. What are prosecutors saying right now?
Brian, what prosecutors are really relying on at this point to impress how serious this is the fact that you have 19 defendants, not just Donald Trump. So you have 18 others. And what they say that alludes to is this claim, this charge of conspiracy and racketeering, which is something you typically hear about when you're prosecuting mobs, mafias, gangs, something at a more organized crime level. And they say that this paints that there was a plot, that it wasn't just Trump, that it was a chief of staff, it was advisors, it was lawyers, all who were in on this alleged scheme to try and overturn the results of what happened in Georgia. And so that is what makes this, Brian, a little bit different than the other cases that you're talking about, a little more complex of a detailed accusation here. Remember, you're talking almost 100 pages. I think now there are reports of up to 30 unidentified co-conspirators, unindicted members who may have been part of this. So it just looks a little more serious and maybe harder to allege that this is anything other than a misunderstanding by the Trump team.
Well, what about Donald Trump and what about his defense team?
There's 2 levels: question and want to know more and pause this procedure, and even go so far as to possibly put these fake electors we've heard about. And so all of this is kind of trying to get in his head and prove that the former president, but then president, actually did know that this was a fair election and he lost. That's what prosecutors are going to say. He's going to have to say, prove that that's what I thought. I was just being responsible and trying to question these results that I found questionable.
Interesting to see how this one will play out because like the others, there's always been that follow-up of what happens next. How quickly will we see this or any of these cases to actually be heard and actually move forward?
Yeah, if prosecutors had their way, it would be starting today. And we've seen delay tactics already employed by Trump's team. They want nothing more than to see all of these pushed off until after the 2024 election. Former President Trump saying that this is a election interference on a scale we've never seen before. I spoke to a former U.S. attorney who's been following these very closely. He believes that you would be lucky to see 1, maybe 2 of these cases get underway with some sort of speed before Election Day. that it's completely unlikely that all four would. And then he goes a bit further, which is something else I spoke to the famed defense attorney who seems to defend a lot of Donald Trump's stances at this point, even though he claims he's voted against him twice and doesn't like the guy. But he, Alan Dershowitz, says, what's challenging about this is if you were to appeal, if Donald Trump were to get convicted and want to appeal, there is no way on earth that those could be heard in time before Election Day. And so he says that's one more sign that it's political. It puts him in a bind that he almost can't fight his way out of. And so in that case, the only thing that you can see if you're Donald Trump is to embrace that kind of brand that he has been labeled with 4 indictments in 5 months and say, as he did previous to this one, say, I just need my 4th indictment